Okay, we're gonna do a Star Trek run. Interesting thing with Star Trek is it's one of the few comic books that is both produced by Marvel Comics as well as DC Comics. I have a little bit of both, mostly DC, but some Marvel. Um, we'll start out with issue 1. I have the newsstand edition, and I also have the direct edition. Um, everybody, most people are familiar with Star Trek and grew up with Star Trek back in the 80s and 90s and have seen some of the movies. And the comic books kind of cover the same characters and the same sci-fi themes that came up on the TV show. Of course, with comic books, you can take things a little bit further. Same characters, many of these same storylines. And as we go through the series, we see the variety of characters, and you just have a different communication medium with comic books as opposed to movies and TV. I've always been a Star Trek fan, and I like sci-fi, and these comics kind of highlight both of those interests. By the way, I want to thank everybody who's come back and watched my videos, and if you have any feedback, feel free to send me a message. Plans for the channel are to expand from going from collections and runs to actually going to places and viewing some hauls, some takeaways. A lot of these books, a variety of colors are very vibrant. Some are violent scenes and some are futuristic. I think they're all kind of cool. This is especially a nice cover. If you remember the Klingons and Mr. Spock with his ears, and Captain Kirk, Lieutenant Uhura, Scotty, who ran the engines. It was a very, very cool series. Still relevant today. A lot of the storylines, very well written, ahead of its time. I think Gene Roddenberry created it, wrote it, and to this day there's still Star Trek conventions. Okay. The style of the magazine of these books kind of stayed consistent throughout the runs. Didn't change too much. I think they went from 75 cents to $1. Other than that, not too much change. This is kind of a cool issue. Always some drama on Star Trek. But a lot of the stories were still simple human interaction, even though it was happening in the context of science fiction out in space. We got Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock. Pretty famous. run. So what's unique about Star Trek is both of the large producers of comics made the same comic, which I can't think of any other comics that ran on both venues. So that's kind of a unique factor. And I think they both covered it pretty well. I can't say I prefer one over the other. I think they're both pretty similar, pretty equal. So, got about 19 of the Marvels, so far fewer. As we go through some of these colors, some of these covers. Looks like the Marvel ones are a little bit older than the DC variants. Perhaps they were made earlier because they're 40 cents as opposed to 75. So they're probably back in the 70s, I would say. I guess Marvel covered them first. So that's the last one I've got. I want to thank everyone who's watched today. This is Comic Book Narcissist. Like, subscribe, comment, over and out.